Welcome to the PCOS lab. I'm Dr. Angela Potter. If you're tired of Band-Aid solutions and being told your labs are fine when you don't feel fine, you're in the right place. We use clinical engineering to move your body out of survival mode and into the biological safety required for motherhood. Let's get to work on your breakthrough. You've got your morning green drink. Your macros, they are carefully planned out, and you hit the gym 4 times a week. On the outside, everything looks perfect. On the inside, you aren't ovulating, your cycles are 60 days apart, and you are exhausted. And you're exhausted because you're high functioning at work, but also because you've spent hundreds of hours Googling diets, trying to hustle your way to a regular cycle, only to have it fail every time. If you're in that place where you feel like you are doing everything right and it's still not working, I want you to hear this. Your body, it isn't broken. It is actually working exactly as it should. It's protecting you. And what's happening is that it has detected a signal that says your survival is under threat, and it is prioritizing your stress response over your fertility. Hi, I'm Dr. Angela Potter, and welcome to the lab. Today, I am outlining the High Achiever's Guide to PCOS. And this is not just about meditating more or taking more deep breaths. We are talking about how to literally change your physiology so that your body stops stealing nutrients away from your eggs and starts moving them forward to help with your ovulation. I can't tell you how many women who sit across from me at their virtual PCOS fertility audit, and they tell me that they've tried everything. But when we're talking, it's very clear to me that there is already a missing link. One, because their symptoms aren't changing. Their cycles are still long. Their ovulation still isn't happening. Two, that the supplements they list, the diets they've listed, those are not addressing what is actually the problem. When I implement the Fertile PCOS clinical blueprint for them, they start seeing a natural cycle within weeks. Why? Because I stop treating the symptoms and start fixing the signals. And here is the clinical reality. Your prenatal and your CoQ10, they cannot fix a danger signal. And when you have been on birth control for years, your hormones are in a tailspin, you need more than a breathing app or a suggestion to just meditate. You need a physiological recalibration. You see, your brain has a very strict hierarchy of needs. It is always going to choose your immediate survival over your long-term fertility. And when your body is stuck in a survival state, it starts a process that I call the nutrient steal. And let's look at what that actually looks like in your morning routine. You start your day with coffee on an empty stomach, and then you hit a fasted workout. And then you're jumping into back-to-back meetings. You might be eating vitamin C, B vitamins, your CoQ10, but what's happening is that your adrenal glands are stealing those nutrients, those great nutrients that have got research behind them to help your eggs. Well, your adrenal glands are actually taking those in order to produce more cortisol and adrenaline just to get you through your morning inbox. Your ovaries, they are getting the leftovers. And this comes into play with your diet as well. You may be eating a healthy diet to get things like more vitamin C, but your physiology internally, it loves those nutrients. It wants you to eat those nutrients, but where you are right now, it is taking those away from your eggs and putting them into your adrenal glands just to help you handle the stress. Let's talk about this in a real-time example with a woman that I worked with recently, and we're going to call her Jill. And Jill, she worked in a high-stress healthcare job, and on paper, she was the model of health. She was counting her macros. She was eating a very clean, plant-based diet. If you looked at her food journal, you would think, wow, she has got this completely dialed in. But her body, it was telling a completely different story. She was exhausted. She was running on empty. She hadn't had a period in 75 days. And despite her perfect habits, her brain was still sending this 24/7 danger signal. And so when she joined my clinical blueprint, I made specific adjustments to her nutrients to flip her internal switch from survival mode to fertile mode. I was not changing her diet to move her into a keto diet or a paleo diet. No, I was making specific adjustments to help her body see that safety signal and turn on the green light to fertility. What was her result? She got her natural period within 5 days. And by focusing on recalibrating her body's signals rather than just eating cleaner, her cycle stabilized and she started seeing 30-day cycles moving forward. And within the year, she was pregnant with a healthy baby. And that story, I bring that up because it shows that we can't just eat our way out of a nutrient steal. You have to change the signal because Jill, she was eating really well. She was eating very clean. She was very focused on getting a well-rounded plant-based diet in. But her diet was not creating the change of a signal that her body needed. She was in this constant alarm mode that her diet wasn't changing. And if Jill's story resonates with you, we can actually see this nutrient steal happening through 3 specific clues. So listen up and see if these are happening in your life too. So first, look at your sleep. If you're waking up between 1 and 3 a.m., that just isn't random insomnia. That is most often a sign that a 14-hour fast or a high-stress day has caused your blood sugar to drop too quickly. Your brain, it senses this drop as a threat and triggers a shot of adrenaline to wake you up. That adrenaline is a sign that your body is sending out alarm signals that are directly stopping ovulation. Second, notice that wired but tired feeling. You are high functioning at work, right? You've got a team underneath you, you lead projects, you are high functioning, but you feel hit hard by anxiety or you are overwhelmed by the smallest things. This is a clinical sign that your safety threshold is tapped out. Your body is telling you it has no more reserves left for anything other than survival. And it is using those high-quality supplements that you are buying to just support your survival response and your adrenal glands rather than building your eggs and your egg quality. And then the third clue to look at, it's your moving target cycle. Whether you have a 45-day, 60, or 90-day cycle, that irregular cycle is the ultimate proof of the hijack. Your brain is stopping the signal to ovulate because it simply doesn't believe the environment is safe enough to support a pregnancy. And it is shunting all your resources into your survival because it does not see that ovulation and reproduction is okay for right now in your body. And this is where that danger of the Google search really begins. Because when you're experiencing those irregular cycles, your instinct is to work harder. It's to fix it. But without a clinical map, you are likely choosing tools that are going to reinforce the very alarm that you are trying to turn off. And you've probably experienced this before, or it's happening currently for you. There's a new diet out that claims that it helps with PCOS, weight loss, PCOS ovulation. You've tried paleo, you've tried keto, and now you're trying intermittent fasting. And when you have that extra stress from a new diet and the diet is actually contributing to more stress, your body is going to move those nutrients that you're getting from either your food or your supplements, move those away from your eggs and into your adrenal glands just to keep you alive. You're starting that diet from a place of depletion. And that hustle of a new restriction, it's only going to push that adrenal alarm louder. And that is what leads to one of the most frustrating gaps that I see in my clinic. Because your next logical step is probably to think, well, I'm going to supplement my way out of this. And so again, you're back on Google looking at supplements to see what can support egg quality, what can support ovulation. And so you're taking a high quality prenatal, you're on CoQ10, you've got the vitamin D, you're doing the work. And so you assume you're supporting your hormones enough. But here is the clinical reality. Those supplements, they are not loud enough to drown out the alarm. Your intuition already knows this because you aren't seeing your cycles change. You aren't getting more energy. You aren't getting positive ovulation signs. You're being really diligent with the diet and the supplements, but nothing is changing, which of course is leading to more frustration on your end. And what's happening, it doesn't require yet another supplement. It doesn't need another antioxidant to help with your egg quality. What happens is that you need to find the alarm signal because, yes, you are going to find nutrients that have great research behind them for PCOS. CoQ10, vitamin D, vitamin C, all great for PCOS. But if your brain still thinks you're in that survival mode, it will essentially block those nutrients. Let's talk about CoQ10 specifically. You're likely taking it because it's considered right now the gold standard for egg quality. But here in the lab, we know that CoQ10, it's actually the fuel for your cellular batteries. And you've heard me talk about this before. Your cellular batteries, those are your mitochondria, which you have in every single cell in your entire body. Yes, granted, your eggs do hold the highest concentration of those mitochondria because they need the most cellular power. They need to be the most active batteries in your body, but you have them in every single cell in the body. And when you're running on caffeine, your brain and your heart, they have much higher energy demand than your reproductive system does. And not only do they have a higher energy demand, they have a higher priority demand than your reproduction. Your body will literally outbid your ovaries for that CoQ10. It would much rather use that fuel to keep your heart pumping through your stressful meeting than it is to help an egg mature. In that survival state, your body views ovulation as a luxury that right now it just can't afford. Emphasis on the right now. It doesn't mean that your body is broken. It doesn't mean that the CoQ10 is not helpful. It means that the underlying alarm that's creating your irregular cycles and your missed ovulation hasn't been figured out yet. You are putting fuel in the tank, but the engine is turned off. So until you address the underlying alarm, those supplements, they are simply expensive insurance for a system that isn't running. And you are here, you have spent years mastering your career. You don't have years forward to spend on a trial and an error for your hormones. You need someone to look at your specific biomarkers and say, this habit stays, this habit goes, and this is the exact nutrient dose your adrenals need to release that grip on your ovaries. You need someone to map out that underlying alarm. There is most likely more than one alarm going on in your body. So what is it? And what is the plan? What habits are actually feeding those alarms? And what are your habits that can switch so that your body starts moving away from alarm mode and starts moving closer to switching that green light for your fertility? Common diets that talk about how they can help the most for PCOS, typically those fall into a generic one-size-fits-all approach, which might sound surprising because nutrition is so important. It's an important foundation. And how could the food that you're eating actually fit into that one size fits all approach? Usually we talk about that in regards to a medication. But what happens with these PCOS diets is that they tell you to cut carbs or try intermittent fasting or to do keto. But for you, as the high achiever, you are already running on adrenaline. So those healthy habits, they can actually be the final straw for your body. Fasting might be exactly what triggers your 3 a.m. blood sugar crash. Fasting might be exactly why you still aren't ovulating, because your body has to steal the nutrients that you're actually getting to keep your brain and your heart and your adrenals nourished enough to get you through these high stress situations. Low carb, it might be the reason your thyroid is slowing down your metabolism. These generic diets, or when you are awake at 3 a.m. doing your search on what can help your ovulation, the internet, those searches and those diets, they cannot see your specific physiological architecture. It does not know your anxiety score. It doesn't know your specific nutrient saturation point, and it does not know the difference between insulin-driven PCOS and adrenal-driven PCOS. And when you try to DIY your fertility like that, you are solving for X without even knowing what your Y is. You end up with a kitchen cabinet full of supplements and a heart full of frustration because you're pulling the wrong clinical levers. And this is to no fault of your own. You want to get pregnant. You are a high achiever and you achieve such great things in your work, and you have years to prove how well that you can run a team and run projects. There is no debate to that, but figuring out your PCOS drivers and what your nutrient saturation point is, that requires a clinical blueprint. And in my practice, I don't guess. I can help you stop the hustle and initiate that clinical correction for you. And in a PCOS fertility audit, I am going to identify your specific safety gaps. I will look at your clinical history, your stress patterns, and your lifestyle triggers to create a clinical protocol that actually works. We talked about Jill's story. She started her blueprint thinking that she had laid the groundwork for her ovulation with diet, but in reality, it was pushing her clinical PCOS alarms even further away from ovulation. And that is very likely happening to you right now. So I am here to help you identify those specific safety gaps in your current routine so that you can finally be prepped for baby. And I have 3 spots open this week for a one-on-one fertility audit. This is a virtual call. And if you're tired of that Google rabbit hole and you're ready for a clinical partner who understands the high achiever's physiology, click that link in the show notes to grab your spot. And before you go, I want to leave you with the 3 core pillars of the high achiever's PCOS protocol. If you feel like you're doing everything right, but your cycles are still missing, these are the 3 clinical gaps that we likely need to close. 1, stop the nutrient steal. You can't macros your way out of high cortisol. When you're in survival mode, your adrenal glands are going to outbid your ovaries for nutrients like CoQ10 and B vitamins. I help you stop the steal so that your eggs finally get the fuel that they need. 2nd, silence the danger signal. A high-quality prenatal cannot drown out a physiological alarm. If your brain doesn't believe the environment is safe, it's going to stop the signal to ovulate. And I help recalibrate your internal switch from survival mode to fertile mode. And 3rd, ditch the guesswork. Generic PCOS diets like keto or fasting, they often trigger the adrenaline spikes that kill ovulation. I help you stop solving for X and start identifying your specific physiological architecture to turn off the alarm for good. Your body, it isn't failing you, it's protecting you. Let's get your body out of survival mode and back into fertile mode. I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you for spending this time with me today. If today's episode resonated with you, it's likely because you're tired of guessing and ready for a blueprint. Remember, your body isn't failing you, it's just waiting for the right signals. My mission is to help you send those signals through clinical engineering so you can move from survival to safety and finally to motherhood. To start sending those signals today, head over to drangelapotter.com/start. There you can take the Why Am I Not Ovulating discovery quiz. In just 2 minutes, you'll identify which metabolic alarms are keeping your fertility emergency brakes on. And if you're ready to stop researching and start your breakthrough, you can also book your PCOS fertility audit on that same page. This is a private 30-minute clinical deep dive with me to determine if the Resilience Blueprint is the right roadmap for your fertility journey. I'm Dr. Angela Potter. Your body is capable, your health is manageable, and your future is waiting. I'll see you in the next episode.